Today, we will talk about how to disagree politely in English without sounding rude.
Many English learners stay quiet because they are afraid of conflict.
But disagreement does not have to be rude.
It can be calm,
It can be respectful.
and it can be honest.
In this lesson, you will learn useful phrases such as, I see your point, but I respectfully disagree, and could we look at it another way?
You will also learn a simple 3-step method.
Listen first,
Disagree gently.
then explain your reason.
Good disagreement is not about winning.
It is about sharing your opinion clearly while keeping kindness, respect, and connection.
Someone says something in English, and you do not agree.
You understand the words.
You understand the idea.
You even have your own opinion.
But suddenly, your body becomes very polite before your mind is ready.
You smile.
You nod.
You say, yes, maybe.
But inside you are thinking, no, I do not agree with that at all.
That is such a common English learner moment.
You do not want to sound rude.
You do not want to create conflict.
You do not want the other person to think you are difficult.
So you stay quiet even when you actually have something thoughtful to say.
Today, we are talking about how to disagree politely in English without sounding rude.
By the end of this episode, you will have 12 useful disagreement phrases, 5 conversation starters, and a simple way to disagree with respect, calm, and confidence.
Welcome back to the Repeat After Me podcast. I am Sarah.
And I am Mike.
This is your cozy corner of the internet for real English conversations.
Not perfect English,
Natural English.
honest English.
Let's begin with one important idea.
Disagreeing is not automatically rude.
Many English learners believe disagreement itself is the problem.
But the problem is usually not the disagreement.
The problem is often the tone, the timing, or the wording.
Tone means the feeling in your voice.
Timing means when you say something.
Wording means the exact words you choose.
A direct sentence like, "You are wrong," can sound harsh.
But a softer sentence like, I see your point, but I look at it a little differently, keeps respect in the conversation.
That is the key.
You can be honest without being harsh.
You can be clear without being rude.
You can disagree and still protect the relationship.
Before you disagree, take one calm second.
Listen to the other person.
Think about what they mean.
Then choose a respectful phrase.
A polite disagreement usually begins with listening, not talking.
If you do not listen first, your disagreement can sound impatient.
And impatient disagreement often feels rude, even if your words are correct.
So remember this simple idea.
First, show that you heard the other person.
Then share your different view.
Now let's learn 12 polite disagreement phrases.
Phrase 1. I see your point, but.
This is one of the safest and most useful disagreement phrases.
Example. I see your point, but I think there may be another way to look at it.
Repeat. I see your point, but.
This phrase works because you recognize the other person's idea before adding your own.
Phrase 2. I understand what you mean, but I see it a little differently.
This is warm and respectful.
Example: I understand what you mean, but I see it a little differently because the situation has changed.
Repeat. I understand what you mean, but I see it a little differently.
This phrase is useful when you want to sound gentle, not argumentative.
Phrase 3. That's a fair point. At the same time.
This phrase is excellent when the other person says something reasonable, but you want to add another side.
Example. That's a fair point. At the same time, we should think about the cost.
Repeat. That's a fair point. At the same time.
Phrase 4. I'm not sure I completely agree.
This is gentle and useful.
It does not sound like an attack.
Example: I'm not sure I completely agree, but I understand why you feel that way.
Repeat. I'm not sure I completely agree.
Phrase 5. I respectfully disagree.
This phrase is clear and formal.
Use it when you want to be direct but still polite.
Example. I respectfully disagree with that conclusion.
Repeat. I respectfully disagree.
This phrase can sound serious, so use it carefully.
It is good for professional discussions, but it may be too formal for casual small talk.
Phrase 6. I can see why you'd think that, but
This phrase shows empathy.
empathy means you try to understand another person's feeling or point of view.
Example: I can see why you'd think that, but I have had a different experience.
Repeat. I can see why you'd think that, but
S7. From my perspective.
perspective means your way of seeing something.
Example: From my perspective, the first option is safer.
Repeat. From my perspective,
This phrase is useful because it does not say, I am right.
it simply says, this is how I see it.
Phrase 8. I agree with part of that, but
This is very useful when the other person is not completely wrong.
example: I agree with part of that, but I still think we need more time.
Repeat. I agree with part of that, but
This phrase sounds mature because it does not turn the conversation into all right or all wrong.
Phrase 9. That might be true, but I also think
This phrase is careful.
it lets you accept possibility while adding your view.
Example: That might be true, but I also think the timing matters.
Repeat. That might be true, but I also think
Phrase 10. I have a slightly different view.
slightly means a little.
This phrase sounds gentle.
Example. I have a slightly different view. I think the problem is more about communication than money.
Repeat. I have a slightly different view.
Phrase 11. I'm not against the idea, but I'm concerned about.
Concerned means worried or careful about a possible problem.
Example. I'm not against the idea, but I'm concerned about the schedule.
Repeat. I'm not against the idea, but I'm concerned about.
This phrase is very useful at work.
It does not reject the idea completely.
It explains the problem you see.
Phrase 12. Could we look at it another way?
This phrase is gentle and collaborative.
Collaborative means working together.
Example, could we look at it another way? Maybe the issue is not the plan, but the timing.
Repeat. Could we look at it another way?
This phrase can help the conversation feel less like a fight and more like a discussion.
Now let's learn a simple 3-step method.
Step 1. Acknowledge.
Acknowledge means show that you heard the other person.
You can say, I see your point.
Or, that's a fair point.
Or, I understand what you mean.
Step 2. Disagree gently.
You can say, but I see it a little differently.
Or, but I have a slightly different view.
Or, but I'm not sure I completely agree.
Step 3. Explain your reason.
Give one short reason.
Do not give a long speech.
Keep it simple and clear.
For example, I see your point, but I see it a little differently, because the cost may be too high.
That sentence does all 3 things.
It acknowledges,
It disagrees gently.
and it explains the reason.
Let's practice with before and after examples.
Situation 1. A friend says, I think this movie was terrible. You actually liked it.
Too direct. No, you are wrong.
Better. I see your point, but I actually enjoyed it. I thought the story was interesting.
Situation 2. A coworker says, we should finish this today. You think that is unrealistic.
Too silent. Okay.
Better. That's a fair point. At the same time, I'm concerned about the quality if we rush.
Situation 3. Someone says, English is impossible to learn.
Too strong. That is not true.
Better? I can see why you'd feel that way, but I think it becomes easier with steady practice.
Situation 4. A classmate says, online learning is always better.
Better? I agree with part of that, but I think some learners need face-to-face support.
Situation 5. A friend says, grammar is the only important part of English.
Better. I have a slightly different view. I think grammar is important, but speaking practice matters too.
These answers do not attack.
They simply create space for another view.
And that is the goal.
Polite disagreement is not about winning.
It is about keeping honesty inside respect.
Sometimes your English says yes, but your face says, I absolutely do not agree.
That is a dangerous face.
Very dangerous.
Your mouth is being polite, but your eyebrows are writing a complaint.
So it is better to learn the words.
Exactly.
When you have polite disagreement phrases, you do not need to hide behind silence.
Now let's move to 5 conversation starters for polite disagreement.
Starter 1. I see where you're coming from, but
Use this when you understand the other person's reason, but you have a different view.
example. I see where you're coming from, but I think we need more information first.
Starter 2. That's a fair point. I just wonder if...
Use this when you want to disagree softly by asking a question.
Example. That's a fair point. I just wonder if there is a simpler option.
Starter 3. I agree with the main idea, but I have one concern.
Use this when you partly agree.
Example. I agree with the main idea, but I have one concern about the deadline.
Starter 4. From my perspective, the situation looks a little different.
Use this when you want to explain your view carefully.
Example, from my perspective, the situation looks a little different because the team needs more time.
Starter 5. Could we consider another possibility?
Use this when you want the conversation to feel collaborative.
Example, could we consider another possibility? Maybe we can start small and test the idea first.
Let's test them in a short conversation.
Mike, I think learning English alone is better because you can study anytime.
I see where you're coming from, but I think many learners also need conversation practice with real people.
That is true.
I agree with the main idea, but I have one concern. If someone studies alone all the time, they may understand English but feel nervous speaking it.
Good point.
Could we consider another possibility? Maybe the best way is to study alone and practice with others.
From my perspective, that sounds like a balanced plan.
That disagreement became cooperation.
Exactly. The goal was not to defeat the other person.
The goal was to find a better thought together.
Now let's do the word tour.
Pick 2 or 3 words from today and use them this week.
1. Disagree.
Disagree means to have a different opinion.
Example, we can disagree and still respect each other.
Repeat. Disagree.
2. Rude.
Rude means impolite or disrespectful.
Example, a direct sentence can sound rude if the tone is harsh.
Repeat. Rude.
3. Respectful.
Respectful means showing care for another person's feelings or position.
Example, she gave a respectful answer.
Repeat. Respectful.
4. Perspective.
Perspective means your way of seeing a situation.
Example, from my perspective, the plan needs more time.
Repeat. Perspective.
5. Concern.
Concern means a worry or problem you want to mention.
Example, my main concern is the deadline.
Repeat. Concern.
6. Fair point.
Fair point means a reasonable idea.
Example, that's a fair point, but I still see it differently.
Repeat. Fair point.
7. Completely agree.
Completely agree means agree 100%.
Example, I'm not sure I completely agree.
Repeat. Completely agree.
8. Slightly different.
Slightly different means a little different.
Example, I have a slightly different view.
Repeat. Slightly different.
9. At the same time.
At the same time means you are adding another side to the idea.
Example, that's true. At the same time, we need to be careful.
Repeat. At the same time.
10. Tone.
Tone means the feeling in your voice or message.
Example, your tone can make disagreement sound polite or rude.
Repeat. Tone.
11. Direct.
Direct means clear and straight.
Example, direct English is useful, but it needs kindness.
Repeat. Direct.
12. Politely.
Politely means in a respectful and socially careful way.
Example, he disagreed politely during the meeting.
Repeat. Politely.
Your challenge this week is simple.
Use one polite disagreement phrase in a real or practice conversation.
Try one of these.
I see your point, but
That's a fair point. At the same time,
I have a slightly different view.
write one sentence in the comments using one of today's phrases.
For example, I see your point, but I think daily practice matters more than perfect grammar.
We genuinely want to read your answers.
Your comments help us make better lessons for real English learners.
If this episode helped you, subscribe and share it with someone who wants to sound polite and confident in English.
And remember, you do not need to choose between being silent and being rude.
You can be honest and respectful at the same time.
Take good care of yourself.
And take good care of your English.
This is Mike.
And this is Sarah.
See you next Monday. Same time, same place.
Stay calm, stay respectful, and speak your truth with care.